What is up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be watching? Thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. Not a whole lot of content from this channel in the last week. I'm sorry, I was very, very busy, but we're going to catch up on it today. And we're going to do that by talking about episode 6 of Loki. And boy, what a crazy, crazy ending to that first season of this show. And yes, it is the first season. We're going to be getting more. We'll talk about that too, I'm sure. But here to talk about that with me are my two favorite variants. The first one is the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I'm good. I have never been called a variant before, so thank you for that. That was a fun experience just now.
I actually feel really stupid for not having thought of that before. I mean, we've only done, like a bunch of these. And I don't know why I didn't think of that kind of a cool thing to do on the intro. But anyway, I thought of it today. And that's the important part.
It's a good one. I think you should keep it up when we're talking about anything Marvel, to be honest.
And also with me today is my hetero life mate. I don't know what variant he would be. He might be the metrosexual variant of himself from the universe. I'm not so sure. But his name is Jeremy, and he's my good buddy. What's going on, bud?
I'll just let that one stew for a minute. I'll think about that. Well, see, she said, I've never been called a variant. I'm like, I have been called Loki, as I've mentioned before. So, I mean, it kind of works. I don't know. I still don't know how I earned that nickname from my old boss.
Well, we'll call it a badge of honor because everybody likes Loki. He's essentially a good guy now.
Yeah, I mean, this is before that, too. This is years ago. It was 4 or 5 years ago.
So, yeah, we'll go with that. Yes, TSS, we are on a little bit early today. Thank you for noticing because we're actually going to be doing 2 live streams. We're doing a Loki a little bit earlier than we usually are because at 8 o'clock tonight, Cora, Jeremy, and myself will be joined by my good friend Knight from the Night Watch Zone while we're going to be talking about Black Widow. Finally came out, something like, 15 months later than what it was scheduled to. But we finally got it. That was a really fun movie, and we're all going to get together and talk about that tonight at about 8 o'clock. But until then, boy, we got to go into what happened with Loki. I mean, there was a whole lot that had to happen in this episode, and I'm not really surprised at how a lot of it played out. There was some finality. There was some stuff that's left open for obvious reasons we're going to talk about. It's just really a whole lot. There's really a whole lot to talk about. I mean, Cora, what's one of the first things that jumps out at you that you want to talk about this episode?
In short, I put it on Twitter. I don't know if you want me to leak it. I'll just say one of the characters went from being one of my favorites of this series and maybe one of my favorite characters of the Marvel universe to being the one I hate the most in a moment. Heel turn as fast as it could happen. It was insane.
So, yeah. And which character was that turned so quickly for you?
Sylvie.
I'll say, was it Sylvie? Yeah.
So fucking pissed.
But think about it, though.
I thought about it, Frank.
But it makes
this way.
No, it makes sense because she is a Loki. I mean, she can try to walk away from it all she wants. I mean, she tries to say, "I'm not a Loki anymore. Don't call me a Loki." She is a Loki, and all the Lokis have the one thing in common is that they generally will go for whatever they want over what is right, wrong, or otherwise. So when she is faced with this opportunity of, do I go ahead and back off of what my ultimate goal was, or do I go ahead and move forward despite the fact that it pisses off the Tom Hiddleston variant of Loki? It makes perfect sense to me that she would do what she does. It's like that old parable about the snake and the frog or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The frog helps the snake across, and then promising not to bite it, then gets over there and bites him, and he says, "Why'd you do that? You said not to." He's like, "Because that's my nature." That's the nature of Loki.
I hear you, but our Loki evolved, and he actually understood what the guy was saying and finally believed it. But the thing is, that guy, I forget what we call him, the one who remains.
He who remains.
Yes.
You. We're just gonna call him douche.
That's a very important distinction, and we'll talk about that here in a minute too.
Yeah.
He did say something that I think was that as soon as he said it, I knew she was gonna fuck it up. So they're first sitting at his desk, and he says something about, "Well, you can never trust anybody." And it's like, okay, then she's gonna fuck it up somehow because she won't even trust our Loki in the end. But I don't know how she would fuck it up. So, yeah, that's my biggest observation. But overall, fantastic episode. I really like the whole, the way they kind of left everything in a nice little like conclusion from everything we've grown to watch from the whole series on all the characters, while they still left it open-ended. It was kind of like perfectly balanced. Does that make sense? Like I'm not sitting here mad that they didn't take care of this one thing, or they left this so confusing. I mean, I'm looking forward to the next season, but I'm not mad about any whole plot holes they left behind.
I think they left behind just enough. And we'll get into some of that here in a little bit. Jeremy, what's one of the things that happened in this episode that really jumped out at you that kind of left you a little taken aback?
Well, I don't know about taken aback. Well, I guess it is kind of taken aback when you think about Loki as a whole. Until we've got, before we've gotten to this point, I think there was a meme I saw a couple weeks ago when we're kind of in the beginning of this show, and someone said they were pointing out like each person, or like Bucky became, or like Falcon became Captain America, Bucky became Forgiven, and they're like, but Loki became the best version of himself, and I think we're all here for it. I'm like, yeah, because this is not, I don't know. You kind of think you could very easily have seen him be in Sylvie's shoes and doing the same thing she did, but he was the one who was trying to stop her and say, look, let's hold on. And like, even him saying that, knowing that, I don't know if we can trust this dude, or I don't know if I can trust you. And he's like, look, I've done stupid shit, not saying you should trust me, but it's like knowing that he's even like, hold on, we need to fucking think about this before we just go into trying to stab old dude over here. So that's just kind of funny that he's kind of the voice of reason, I guess. The only voice of reason, it seems like, in this show.
Where Loki is, the Tom Hiddleston Loki, the one that we've gotten used to over the last 10 plus years. He's
a voice of reason?
Yeah. Well, he's a pragmatist.
Okay.
That's the thing is Loki, ultimately he's a pragmatist. He logically approaches these situations and says, well, this is the best thing that works out from my point of view. I'm just going to go for it. Whereas Sylvie is very single-minded of purpose. She doesn't understand what Loki is trying to what Tom Hiddleston is trying to tell her. She just wants to finish what she feels is her mission. And she feels that the best way of doing that is to kill this dude because she's going to undo time or whatever she thinks it's going to accomplish. But she doesn't want to see that reason. She's so kind of not blood drunk, but she's definitely driven by her revenge more than she is by any real deep thought process of how things might play out. She doesn't care about what happens 5 moves after this. She cares about this move and stabbing that guy in the heart and killing him. That's all she cares about. There's not really a thought process after that for her, which is one of the big differences between these two Loki variants and what ends up becoming the problem in the end.
I don't know, Frank. What stood out to you the most? The question you just asked us overall.
Well, what stood out to me the most was the post-credit scene. that was very interesting to me because Marvel has been very nonchalant about whether there's going to be second seasons of any of this stuff. They kind of came out flatly and said that WandaVision will be a limited series. It will be a one-off. It will not have anything coming after it. That it's going to be kind of the first act of this thing that's going to be happening between WandaVision, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness, and Spider-Man, whatever it is, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Quantumania?
Yeah, well, sort of. But we don't really know about the connection to Ant-Man yet. Whereas this show, you go through the post-credit scene, and you know there was going to be one. It flat out says with that little stamp, Loki will return in season 2. They are already committed to season 2, and it makes sense to me because there was a lot of stuff that was kind of left out there hanging. For one, when she kicks Loki out of the guy's office and sends him back to the TVA, he runs into B-15 and to Mobius, and they don't seem to know who he is. And then he looks up and he sees that statue of the one who remains. That has changed, and so that right there is a big plot point that's just left wide open.
I wondered that too because I'm like, how do they not know who he is? Isn't he lucky he was dressed in TVA clothes? I mean, because otherwise,
I mean, he still looks fucked up. Like he's all bloody and like he's all kind of, like he definitely went through a fight with another variant, and then for him to just kind of walk by everybody and when he got there, I was kind of like, oh my god, good. He got the Mobius, and there's B-15, awesome. And then when he's just like, okay, but like, who are you? I was like, motherfucker, no. And so he turned, well, because I'm like, yeah, of course he'd be the only one left with the knowledge of still what happened, and like you'd still have to again explain that all over to them, and they still probably won't believe him. And I mean, I knew it was going to happen. Like dude said, he's like, well, see you soon. And I'm like, oh, there is his dumb face on that statue. So he's fucking everywhere.
Well, and the other thing that was kind of left out, and what's going on, Garguts, Chris Skywalker, what's going on? I see you guys in the chat. Thanks for coming and hanging out. The other thing is that when we last see Sylvie, she's just sitting there in the guy's office, and that's it. We have no idea where she has gone after this point. Yeah. We have no idea if she's tried to take over time, if she just figured, well, that's it, I'm just going to sit here until I die, or am I just going to go off somewhere else and kind of try to live an existence? We don't know what happens to her. So this, what's that?
Can I ask your opinion about that?
What's that?
Falling to the floor crying. I had two questions there. Is it because she pushed Loki, the one that she was falling in love with, away, and she didn't know what would happen if she'd see him again? Or do you think it was she just realized she made a mistake and she regretted killing the guy? Something else.
I don't think we're going to have an exact answer to that until we get to season 2. Because, I mean, there's this idea that maybe she's just relieved that it's all over and she doesn't really have an emotion in the moment because she hasn't really opened her mind up to think about what's next. Then again, she could, now that it's all done, maybe she does feel some kind of regret that she turned on Loki. Maybe, I mean, it could be a lot of different things. I think we'll get a clearer picture of that in the first episode or 2 of season 2, whenever that comes out. But, I mean, that's something that's going to have to be answered, I think, later on. But like I said, we don't see anything past her sitting there in the office on the ground, and that's it. That's just where we leave her. So there's obviously something that happens to her at that point. What were you saying, Jeremy?
No, the way I took it is like, I mean, like you said, if that was your entire mission, that was your only goal that you were focused towards. And I mean, she did attempt to try and swing at him a few times and it didn't work. So that's probably frustrating as hell. But then it seemed too easy. He just said, all right, well, go for it. And then she did. It's kind of like, yeah, that's probably a big weight off of her shoulders, all that buildup she did. But then I thought maybe it was more of a classic trope of, well, the revenge is not going to make you feel any better afterwards. And she kind of sat there like, well, now what? And I'm like, yeah, well, now what are you going to fucking do, champ? Like, did you, I mean, like you said, Frankie, like you didn't think past that part.
You just burned the house down. Where are you going to fucking sleep tonight?
Yeah. Did you see the timeline just fucking going outside the damn shit?
That was really, I love that the contrast of the moment that you look out their camera's looking out the window and you see the actual timeline, splintering off, and then they immediately show the TVA and then looking at that very rudimentary computer screen with lines of like, they look so different. They mean the same thing. I don't know why the contrast of that was cool cinematography wise. I don't know if you guys know that, but.
And then, of course, someone put the meme up there like, hey, look, there's No Way Home. There's Doctor Strange. I'm like, yeah, Spider-Man. I'm like, yeah, we know what it's about. I don't know.
That ending of this season of this show made me think that maybe Loki himself is going to be like a bigger part of MCU when they're finally done years from now than I ever expected.
Yeah, I don't think the MCU is going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, certainly they could.
I'm just saying, like 20 years from now, when you're looking back at the MCU as a whole, I think this TVA shit and Loki is going to be a bigger component than any of us can maybe imagine at this moment. That's just a guess. But.
You mean right there for all time, always?
Yes, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah, it's something else to be pointed out, and they've already been talking about it in the chat a little bit. I know Garguts has mentioned it, I think TSS, is this guy that we got at the end, the one who was apparently the timekeeper. He is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. He is not Kang. Now, this is the guy, Jonathan Majors, I think his name is, who will play Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I still think is a terrible, terrible title, but whatever, I'm going to go with it. He is the one who's going to play him, but I think what it definitely makes clear here is that this guy is a variant of the guy who we will see as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So it's not the same guy. A lot of people were saying that it was going to be Kang the Conqueror. I was saying what a lot of people were saying, that they were not going to introduce Kang the Conqueror here in the last episode of Loki and then have him be the main bad guy for a couple reasons. Number one, it didn't make any sense narratively. There's going to be so much that happens in the MCU between now and then. He's going to be kind of forgotten. Number two is we're not getting Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania until for like what, another year and a half?
Probably.
I don't think it comes out. Does it even come out in 2022? I don't remember off the top of my head. If anybody in the chat wants to look that up and remind me really quick, that'd be fantastic. But I think it's going to be way too long between now and then to try to introduce the character now.
So is the Doctor Strange movie supposed to be the next one out the gate?
Either Doctor Strange or Spider-Man, right?
I think Spider-Man. Well, Shang-Chi is the next one that comes out, but it's not going to have anything to do with this.
Yes.
And then after that, I think we get. I think the next one is probably the Doctor Strange sequel.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely did not get Kang the Conqueror in this show. We got what is a variant of him. Now, what's important about this character, though, is that he sets up one of the things. Yes, TSS, thank you. Ant-Man is going to be out in 2023, so we've got a long way to go. I would imagine it's going to be spring or summer, so we've got almost 2 full years until that movie comes out.
Are there any talk of any more of these besides the second season of Loki?
I say we still got season 2.
Limited series.
Well, we're going to talk about it a lot more later in the Black Widow review, but I mean, we've got Hawkeye coming out. I don't think Hawkeye is going to have a whole lot to do with this. I think that's going to kind of be its own thing. Other than that, I don't know what else Marvel-wise. They have the What If animated thing coming out,
True.
but I don't think that's going to necessarily play into anything. I think it's going to be its own very self-contained kind of thing. I mean, because it really is all that the crazy comic book stories that they want to kind of flesh out and put out in this MCU, but not really make them part of the MCU. You know what I mean? Like we're going to be getting like a taste of the Marvel Zombies, which is something I would really love to see on the big screen. But we're going to get a taste of it in the animated thing, and it's just kind of this what if thing. What if the butterfly flaps its wings in Peking, and Doctor Strange becomes Iron Man instead of the Sorcerer Supreme, that kind of thing.
Or that weird one where Killmonger saved Tony Stark in the beginning of the movie. I was like, what? All right, sure.
I'm interested in seeing that, but it's not going to be it's not going to be the next big thing that impacts the MCU moving forward.
Well, that's also how we could keep T'Challa as Black Panther. We could just animate it, and that'd be a cool way to keep him in there.
Good. You need to find somebody really good to voice him, though.
I know, but it's a little easier to animate him and then have him voice than put somebody in the movie to stand in for him.
Yeah. Absolutely. But so much crazy stuff. And also, for one, Jeremy, what do you think of the visuals of some of the stuff that happened? I know we didn't get a chance to talk about last week's episode because I was pulled away from YouTube for most of last week. But I mean, let's talk about some of the crazy visuals that happened over the course of the last couple episodes. That whole fight between the big cloud demon, whatever the hell it was, I forget, and the 2 Lokis. And then you have Robert Grant come out there and just kind of like materialize the city. He pulls his like ultimate Gandalf, whatever the hell move that he did, and basically it puts up this kick-ass like Emerald City version of Asgard to kind of sidetrack the monster thing while Loki and Sylvie are doing their thing. That to me was some amazing special effects. What do you guys think of, especially down the last like 2 or 3 episodes, the special effects of this thing, Jeremy? They were fantastic.
Yeah, that was wild actually seeing. Well, I guess not necessarily visuals, but like since we didn't really get to do one for last week, and I wanted to goddamn put vote Loki for president as my thing. I want you to know that because that was going to be my thing for fucking sure. Because that was my favorite variant, and I totally did not buy a pop figure of it. They know what I'm talking about. How many, not like the Easter eggs in the end of time there. Like the first thing I saw the Thanos copter and I actually audibly laughed out loud. I was like, I was like, son of a bitch, that's here? Okay. And then someone pointed out like some other shit like the hovercraft they had, a couple other things I didn't really catch.
Did you catch what TSS did in the chat like I did? He says
what
at
he did.
The very beginning of the Marvel intro, they played the song from the end of Endgame.
In the second to last one?
No, the last episode.
The last
Easter eggs in general.
Yeah.
Something that they play different music.
Yeah, I like to think that the intros are also like the little Marvel logo is something. If it's not just the standard, like the little tune they play, even just the visuals inside of the logo are cool. Like, I mean, if anyone's noticed the last couple ones, they've added a little, like, the last second, there's like right before it goes all the way out, there's like Black Panther doing like a into the ground, and the purple like energy goes out. Like, it's a nice little tribute to Chadwick Boseman. So yeah, I noticed this one was a lot different. There was a lot of other things going on with it, so that was pretty cool.
That does show a testament that they're customizing each episode in ways that most shows don't.
Yeah, they put a lot of thought into it.
Oh, I know. Just like with WandaVision, the intros, the credit scenes, especially with Loki, because it's not just a traditional credit scene. They're being very careful what photos and desk scenes they show. I don't know. The detail that went into producing this is just, I don't know. When I rewatch episodes, I see it again and again. There's more and more. Like you said, the Easter eggs are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Easter eggs. Yeah, Marvel does Easter eggs very, very well. There was a couple actually that I had missed, and we'll talk about them later in Black Widow, that I had missed in that movie that were blatantly obvious that I completely missed until I was watching. I think New Rockstars had put up a short video of some of the Easter eggs, and I was like, "Damn, that one blew right past me. I didn't even see it." But one of the things I wanted to point out was, I had it in my head and I forgot it. Oh, Richard Grant playing that kind of comic book style Loki,
classic Loki.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic. He was that whole. I mean, let's go back an episode and talk about kind of that whole excursion to the Nether Realm, whatever the hell it was called. I forget what it was called now.
It's the end of time or something.
Yeah, it's the end of time, and the multitude of different weird Lokis I thought was kind of funny, because when we see that post credit scene at the end of episode, was it 5?
Yeah.
Where Loki has been
4,
where Loki has been de-rezzed and he ends up waking up on this thing, and you stand there and you see these 4 different Lokis. One of them is Alligator Loki, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
That is the best.
The other one was the Kid Loki, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then you see Richard E. Grant's character, of course. And then you saw the black guy who was a Loki. But I thought it was odd that he was holding what looked to be like almost a Mjolnir kind of hammer. It's something like Thor's hammer,
like a big Warhammer version of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
When I first saw that, I was like, because Loki doesn't usually carry. I mean, he's got the sword. If he'd had a sword, that would have made sense. But the fact that guy was carrying a hammer, I thought at the time was significant. It ended up not being that big of a deal, once we got into episode 5. But I thought it was really funny that he was holding some kind of a hammer and not a sword or something like that. I thought that was more of a Thor thing, and I kind of wondered after seeing that what that meant. What do you think, Jeremy?
That one is the boastful Loki, right? So he seems like as if you couldn't imagine Loki being any more cocky or arrogant. It seems like he's the one who, because he was wearing a big, the drip on this man. He had that big, like, fucking Macklemore looking fucking coat on, and he had that fucking Warhammer. And I'm like, all right, this dude probably is a pretty big deal. I thought he was cool. Kid Loki, that's just kind of like that's no one of those like what ifs. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, I killed Thor. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you did that. All right, cool. And then I guess classic Loki, that's kind of nice that they do that. And he's like, oh, he actually lived out his life, and he kind of spent the last few just kind of hiding. But that's nice. Like, someone made a good meme about that too. Like, hey, Marvel, keep doing that shit. Keep putting the classic, because they showed like Wanda, they showed Vision, Quicksilver, and then this guy being the classic comic book Loki. I'm like, yeah, it's nice little nods like that just warm your heart.
Yeah, how badly did you want when Owen Wilson's character Mobius comes up in that little pizza car, or whatever it was, when he's rolling up there? Did you want to hear him yell "ka-chow"?
I've seen that where they replace it with Lightning McQueen. I'm like, God damn, of course.
Because what's funny is I thought that as I was watching it, I was just like, I want to hear some Lightning McQueen like Easter egg right now. Well, to use one little line that is insignificant to Loki, but it's just a funny little thing to Cars, to Lightning McQueen. I thought that would have been absolutely hilarious. They didn't really give it to me, but whatever, it was fine.
And I think twice in his little monologue, He Who Remains said "wow" like twice. I'm like, you made him say "wow" twice. You can't give one to Mobius?
Well, it came out a while. I think there was a story that came out a few weeks ago that Owen Wilson had said that he doesn't say that over the course of the series.
I know.
And I think most people were kind of like, well, Marvel's straight up lied to us about things before to try to keep the secret. So it's like we're probably going to see him say it in some fashion. Maybe not the way that we have always seen him say it in all of his movies. But we thought that there would be some little thing where he goes, wow, that's awesome, or something small, so that we could hear him say it. He never actually says it this entire series.
No.
And I remember getting to the end of this last episode thinking to myself, dude, Disney, you kind of screwed us here. It's like there are some things that we want that we know are not significant to the story. They're not significant to the MCU at all, but we still want them just because it's fluff. It makes us feel good. Why not let them say, wow, one time, let them do it. I didn't understand why they did that.
Well, because then we're going to want it in every damn thing he does. And I know he doesn't want to be like attached to that probably. Just like, oh, everyone wants to hear him say, wow. I don't know. Like Loki could have just gotten some big spiel. Like when he was talking to him in that one episode, and he just sits there and goes like, wow. Like, really? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, Awandi says it was an underwhelming finale. He was disappointed. Hopefully season 2 delivers better. You know what?
I mean, my jaw dropped at the end. Yeah, well, I was like...
Well, the thing is they obviously have had plans for a second season from the beginning. Or else we wouldn't have saw the post-credit scene that we saw at the end of this particular episode, episode 6. So I'm thinking that they probably left a lot of shit out there and didn't wrap a lot of stuff up because they need something to go into season 2 with. So... I mean, yeah, it's because remember, they don't do TV like they did back in the 70s and 80s anymore. It's not like every episode is its own individual thing, with the exception of like the big 2-parter, which was big in the 80s when I was a kid. They don't have these storylines that, even the ones that did kind of have overarching storylines that lasted a season, they always ended in that season. Now to try to build dramatic effect and to try to make sure that the studios pick them up for another season so they don't get canceled, they try to put these things in there that kind of draw out. You see it a lot with like what's the one I like? The one I like is Blacklist. The Blacklist is like one big long storyline that never ends. You didn't used to see that kind of thing in TV, but now. You know, Marvel's gotten so good at stringing these stories out over not just a couple of episodes, but a couple of movies. But even like the Infinity Saga was 22 movies long and 10 or 11 years. That's how long they drug this thing out, and they did it almost flawlessly. Why can't I believe that they would do something every bit as good with one of these shows like Loki or something like that? Eventually, I think we're going to eventually get a second season of WandaVision. I mean, maybe it's not going to be for a couple of years. It'll be another limited series. We'll probably maybe get another Falcon and Winter Soldier, though I think that might move into the movie realm. Others. I mean, I don't know anything about Hawkeye yet. We don't really know. Well, we learned some stuff in Black Widow how that's going to work. We'll get into that here in a couple hours. But
I'm on the edge of my seat. I want some shit to say.
Yeah, that's going to be good to talk about. So make sure you guys come back about 8:00 and listen to us talk about Black Widow. But I mean, yeah, there's an overarching story that they can tell here. Because look, like I said, we leave with Loki and Sylvie being put apart, and we don't really know what their relationship is now. We don't really know what the effect of killing the one who remains has had on the TVA. We just know it had a significant effect. What it is or how it's going to affect things moving forward, we don't know. Is there going to be another timeline war? I mean, there's so many questions out there that you want to push into another season. I mean, it finished what we needed to finish for this.
You say that, but I wonder how. I would imagine it would take decades to get to a point where there would be that kind of a war. Across the whole universe and multiverse, don't you think?
Maybe. I don't. Well, I mean, it depends. Well, it depends on how you write it. I mean, it could be something that happens suddenly. Because remember, in Loki, it's already happened. It already happened once. So maybe killing the one who remains and screwing up a timeline again is something else that could be the spark that ignites the powder keg that is another war.
And we don't know what these other universes have been doing up to that point. And like you said, killing him, I mean, we don't know what other the guy said, like, I've lived a million lives. I'm like, yeah, there's probably multiple versions of him, too, that have gone through time and different universes. And if we can obviously time travel and do this other bullshit, I'm like, it's already probably fucking happening. Like, all this free will that they just gave all these multiple universes, it's going to fucking go off, and it's going to go off really fast. So that's probably what that whole, like, spider web of what bullshit that was outside that she was seeing. Like, that's just everyone fucking crossing paths with each other.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the chat that I think I was trying to get around to pulling these things out to talk about. Rachel obviously comes out with one of the big questions of this series. It's like, I'm just gonna say that they wrote it. I'm going along with it. I don't understand it either. But would you also give us the alternate version of yourself?
Well, isn't the goal? Aren't we all disposed to love one another and ourselves? I mean.
Well, if you think of it, though, it makes perfect sense because Loki is so arrogant that who could he really love but himself?
Well, I know, and I know I want to do the Jay and Silent Bob where I'm like, would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me hard. I know, and I want to see him do his little lipstick dance and shit. Just for the two of them, please, Tom Hiddleston, do that for us. But maybe maybe that's a version of Loki that we need to see, like a Jay version. I don't know. Every time I go back and forth on this, I keep saying like, yeah, well, it's kind of him, but then I'm like, when it's something to the contrary, I'm like, yeah, but is it really him? I don't know. The alligator could be him. I don't know anymore. Like, you don't know. This whole court's out of order.
Another one that Wandy asked is, so was Thanos insignificant this whole time? No, I don't believe so. If you listen to the way that they discussed how the timeline works, it's that they're not trying to erase, fix, or do anything like that. Everything that was supposed to happen in the timeline happens. So, and I think even Loki brings it up in one of the first couple episodes. He's like, well, what about the Avengers going through time to do their time heist? Mm-hmm. They said that was supposed to happen. As we're looking at the timeline, that is supposed to happen. So basically what they're saying is let me get my toothpick real quick. This toothpick is the timeline. We're watching this timeline, and things are supposed to happen here, here, and here. We know they're going to happen. They're supposed to happen. So even the Avengers going through time was supposed to happen in the timeline.
But my point is, how do you know that since you knew, even the dude, the one who remains said, like, I know everything that is going to happen, at least up to a certain point, which kind of sounded like what the Ancient One said once, which is like, I've seen my life up until this very point. You don't know what's going to happen after that. I'm like, so how do you, again, just me, I like time shit, but I'm like, how do you not know that Loki wasn't going to do that in the first place?
Yeah.
You still know he was going to do that. Why was that not okay?
Yeah, so so in short, Thanos was not insignificant. He occupied exactly the role that he was supposed to occupy through the timeline. That's why they didn't do anything to stop him from snapping away half of existence in the universe for 5 years. And he asked the same thing. Does Iron Man's death mean nothing? No, absolutely Iron Man's death means something. For one, it means something narratively. For two, it means something because Robert Downey Jr. had to leave the role at some point in some fashion, and that was the way they decided to do it. Well, of course, we all know he's going to be back at some point. But no, his death was supposed to happen on that timeline. So if you're looking at the timeline, Iron Man is supposed to die right here. Iron Man dies right here. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, the other question that's going to run through my mind is when they do eventually bring him back, how are they going to bring him back in a way that doesn't fuck up the timeline because he's supposed to be dead? Well, I think the easy bullshit answer is, well, it was supposed to happen in the timeline, him coming back. But
put him in as the consciousness of like one of the suits or something. Like, I don't know.
That's the idea that I like.
I like, him being like the new Friday or something, like have his voice or something in one of the suits. Like, that'd be fucking sweet. See, the other thing is like not branching off of Iron Man. I'm like, well, what about Natasha? To tie in with the fact that we're going to talk about this later. I'm like, well, did that just kind of mean nothing? Like, no, it still pushes that narrative along that, now she's gone and now we have the Soul Stone, unfortunately, in the way that has to work. But I don't know. I think the thing that people get hung up over is like, because he met the one who remains, he even mentions like, hey, you want the Infinity Stones? You want the Gauntlet? Take it. I'm like, does that matter? Does it? I think we talked about that, and I was like, well, in the TVA, apparently it doesn't matter. I guess that we know of. I don't fucking know. But outside of there in the universe, so there's other multiple universes, fuck, I don't know. They're probably still one of the most powerful things to exist. So it's not like it's for nothing. I'm like, we're not. I think people get hung up on that too much. We're like, oh, so Natasha basically and Iron Man and Gamora died for nothing. I'm like, not really. Just the stones. It's the point. It's kind of supposed to just be a joke that, haha, they don't work here. I'm like, well, yeah, but no.
I agree with you. They didn't die for nothing because it's for this timeline or this branch or whatever. I mean, it's real in this, little micro universe that the characters that we've grown to understand and know are. I mean, now that we understand there's more of those little micro universes or timelines or branches, whatever the proper word is, of course it's going to mean something different.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I don't think it's any less significant.
Now, I wanted to ask another question in the chat. He's like, if it was supposed to happen, it means there was no free will. Thanos never had free will then to eliminate 50% of the population. That's not entirely true. Remember, the timekeepers or the one who remains, whatever the hell was actually running things, they don't actually affect the outcome. They are letting time flow. It's when somebody does something that wasn't supposed to happen, not necessarily that they don't make the choice that the timekeeper agrees with, but something that wasn't supposed to happen on the timeline, and that thing branches off and causes that whatever. That means that they need to go back and prune that branch, to use the term and the thing, to make sure the time flows the way it's supposed to flow. The timekeeper is not trying to say, oh, I need to choose to go to McDonald's instead of Burger King, or I need to choose to go left instead of going right. It's not about making the decision for us. It's making sure that we make the decisions that we were supposed to make that do not alter or cause one of those branches.
I just want to know what judges that, though. Like, how does that I mean, I know we have a little thing that shows a blip of that happening. I'm like, but how do you know that?
And how do you explain it when you have this guy literally having a stack of papers set on the desk, literally scripting what they're going to say up till this point? And he goes, remember he said, I don't know what happens after this point. I did up till now. So does it mean?
Yeah.
So are you saying, Frank, that they had free will, but he just knew what was going to happen and it just was recorded, and it wasn't necessary? Okay.
Yeah, he's just sitting and watching it all. He's not saying, Cora, you need to go here instead of going there, or try to dictate how people make every decision they make, as to, what TV show they watch or whatever. Yeah, he's just observing, and when something happens that is not supposed to happen in time and causes one of those branches, that's when he sends the TVA to step in. But other than that, you're just doing your thing through life as long as you stay on that one stream of time. So
and you'd never know if they reset it. Like you'd never, it's like a Men in Black thing. Like you never fucking know, just they come in and then that's it.
Yeah, that's the idea, I think, is that it's like if Jeremy does something he's not supposed to do, the TVA comes and arrests him. They go back to that point where he made that divergence. They reset everything from there, de-res Jeremy to go to whatever hell planet he goes to. He gets eaten up by that big cloud dog. And then the Jeremy that was supposed to go forward on that track of time goes forward. So he doesn't cease to exist or anything. They basically just reset it. Kind of like when you're resetting a video game. Yeah. You go back to your save point. That's kind of what they do, to use the video game term.
That's a pretty good... Damn, I wish I would have thought of that. That's a good analogy for that.
That's kind of the analogy, is if you get to a point in the game where you're like, oh, I should have gone through this door and gotten this sword instead of going here. You go back to your save point and then you make the correct decision.
Or it's like, hold on, I want to go in here and murder everybody. I'm going to save first, do it, and if it fucks up, I'm going to go back. And that never actually happened. You know what I mean?
But the people in the timeline don't have that knowledge, though. Nobody in the timeline has that knowledge. The people outside of time, the TVA and the timekeepers or whoever, they all have that insight that we don't have.
The only thing that this is a good time to bring something up that I want to fucking ask a question about is I know Sylvie even asked the judge, like, so what the hell was my Nexus event? What did I do? And it does kind of seem like the jackass answer to be like, I honestly don't remember. I'm like, you bitch. Jesus, fuck you. You've done that so many times, you just don't fucking kill it anymore, do you? But honestly, like, what the fuck was she doing? She was sitting there being a kid, just playing with her shit, and they're like, yep, see ya, yank. I'm like, damn, what, or was she going to do something? Is that maybe what they're saying? Because, hold on, they went to, B-15 took one of those guys to see the judge, and okay. I'm going to mildly spoil something from Black Widow, not really. Why do we keep going to Ohio? Stop it. What did we do? You're gonna tell me Natasha grew up in fucking Ohio, and then you're suddenly like, hey, there's somewhere in Ohio, there's this judge who's gonna become, or this principal who's gonna become a fucking judge for the TVA. I'm like, stop it!
Is that where somebody famous from Marvel or the director of these?
I don't know.
Born or something.
Also, wasn't speaking of Marvel, wasn't Cyclops? Didn't he go to school in Ohio, like in the old movies? I'm like, high school.
Stan Lee was born in Ohio.
That'd be cool.
I don't know if he was or not. I don't know why they. Maybe it's because. I just kind of the Midwest in general, maybe not necessarily just Ohio, but the Midwest in general is kind of that.
Specifically Ohio.
It represents kind of the everyman a little bit, maybe. So it's like
nowhere Ohio.
Well, because every movie takes place in LA and New York. I mean, it's like that's kind of the old joke about disaster films. It's always LA and New York that are getting destroyed. It's never anywhere else.
Wow.
But the thing is, it's like, would anybody care if Dayton, Ohio got destroyed by a fucking gigantic earthquake? Nobody outside of Dayton would care. Nobody in LA would watch that movie and be like, meh, who cares? It's some
also, Jet, my favorite movie, Ready Player One, takes place in Columbus, Ohio. I'm like, cool.
Oh, shit.
Shit. Yeah, I was like, hey, that's awesome. But also, I mean, when they sit there and you see how shitty it looks, I mean, not that it looked before. I know, because I'm going to go off on it.
Basically, an American favela, like he would find somewhere in like Brazil.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, in 2045, Columbus is the fastest growing city in the world. I'm like, and it looks like that. What the fuck does the rest of the?
New York, for the record.
Yeah, I think he was born in New York. No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, because my other point is, what the fuck did? I wish we would have gotten more of that scene with B-15 and that other time cop. Because they just straight went there and they're like, Judge, what are you doing? She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? B-15's like, see what I mean? This is my point I'm trying to make. And I'm like, and also I hate you, Frank, for being right about that fucking pen that did not mean shit in like a second episode.
You know, that's something I had just written down. I wanted to point that out. They went to that pen again. Because it's like they focused in on that pen in episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then right before he has this little revelation with Loki, he's signing that paper again, and then it doesn't focus on it so much, but it shows him looking at the pen and going like that, and looking at it again and drawing more attention to the pen. So I saw that and I was like, are we finally getting an explanation as to what that means? And there was no explanation at all.
Well, I guess the fact that, I mean, we saw the pens in the little cup on the desk, so for some reason, remember she takes a thing from each.
You don't think that was just confirmation that he had been suspicious about the pen that she kept in her office all the time?
Yeah, because like, why specifically that pen of all the trophies? Yeah. So, I mean, hey, maybe that's what season 2 is about. Maybe we'll delve into more. Like, I would love to see what happened with Mobius, and I want to see what the hell happened to the judge, because I'm like, she was apparently like a high school principal or some shit. I'm like, what did she do? What did Mobius do? I'm like,
none of them did anything. I think they just picked random people to fill jobs at the fucking TVA, and anybody, truthfully, could be considered a variant. I mean,
well, they did say that they're all variants. That was the big reveal that Sylvie gave Loki, is that everybody that works for the TVA is a variant. You would have to imagine it would have been the judge all the way down to the janitor. You know what I mean?
Maybe we're all variants, and they just pick random people, and that's what they call everybody.
Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, they're clearly focused on the variants that would cause some kind of a problem. I mean, obviously Loki is somebody who would cause a problem. He causes a problem every time he wakes up in the morning.
That's what I'm saying.
Reminds me of that movie with Tom Cruise where they arrest you before you actually commit a crime.
Minority Report.
Yeah.
Minority Report.
Yeah.
If that's where they're going with this, that they're taking you before you can commit it has that vibe to me. And
that's what I'm saying. Maybe they knew Sylvie was going to do something, and that's why. And like, they never gave her the chance, like, at all. So maybe it was before she started on that path. I don't know. And like I said, I think a few episodes ago, like, maybe to me it seems like obviously you'd think, yes, someone like Loki or Sylvie would be a big problem. And if we're assuming they're all variants, like I said, I'm pretty sure they'd be like fucking capital murder. And then someone like Mobius was probably like a misdemeanor of some sort. I'm like, yeah, he probably did something, but nothing like to get in a twist about. And they're just like, hey, you know what? We'll give you a job. They probably wiped his mind, but they're like, here. I don't know.
Yeah, even Awandi points it out in the chat. He said, even the one who remains is a variant.
True.
That there is no original person. Yeah, Yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah.
I don't know about not having an original person. I figure,
it's not like there's an ancient one.
Are all the variants born at the same exact time in various timelines? Like if I was born at 11 o'clock at night, were all my variants also born at 11 o'clock at night, or at least at the exact same moment in relation to where I was born? I don't really, not that it's important to anything really, but it is kind of an interesting,
I don't know.
Little thought.
You figure, well, no, didn't he say like there was a variant of when he was doing this little show with his little fucking whatever the fuck that was. Like, hey, there was one of me that existed in the 31st century. I'm like, that's not even Jesus Christ. I'm like, hold on. So you could be in different parts of not necessarily the timeline, but different universes, right? So you're not existing all at the same time, but they have had their lives happen, right?
Yeah. They exist in different spaces and times.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd to me, but whatever.
Being someone who's watched a lot of Doctor Who, I'm just like, yes, this makes sense to me.
That's one of the things I don't like about time travels. It opens up so many other questions that you can't possibly answer. And generally, when they use it in a movie, it's just kind of expected that it all works the way it's supposed to work for the story, and we're all just supposed to accept it. But there's so many people out there like me and Jeremy that are like, I have a problem with that, and it kind of takes us out of it a little bit. But that's one of the reasons why I would never.
It's a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Yeah,
and Back to the Future is all bullshit, by the way.
I wish Stan Lee was still alive because wouldn't it have been great to see him being some random TVA worker sitting at a desk.
Oh, that would have been sweet.
Like the one who, like specifically the chick that is in charge of the library that tells you what isn't classified. I'm go no.
That would have been a great one for him. Yeah.
I think it would have been.
That would have been, but
or maybe
every time there's a Marvel project, I try to imagine which would be the best cameo for.
Or he should have been the guy that just had the Infinity Stones casually chilling in his fucking desk drawer.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, oh yeah, we use those for paperweights. Like, you can hear him say it. I'm like, yeah.
That would have been great if he'd have been the villain all along. You just kind of walk up there, you're like, damn it!
Stan Lee is the one who remains.
You had all the Infinity Stones, for Christ's sake.
Damn it!
Chat, maybe Frank's variant is him with full head of hair.
Somewhere in some area of space and time, I have luscious Fabio style hairstyle. Hey, I can grow hair everywhere except for this part right here in the top and the middle. That's why I go bald by choice rather than by age.
That's fair, man.
Awani does ask an interesting question. This is something that could be significant to Loki season 2 or moving forward if this thing goes into a longer run. So who oversees the seer? I mean, is there anybody?
Well,
especially now considering that he's dead.
Is Sylvie now like the whole? I mean, is it? Spoilers if no one's seen Pirates of the Caribbean. The fuck's wrong with you? Is this like the whole? Yeah, I know, and you are probably still listening, Rachel. I'm talking to you. Maybe not. Okay, good. You heard me then. I said what I said.
You answered me like 3 minutes ago.
Okay, you heard what you said. I said what I said. But maybe it's the whole. Sorry, I'm going to give you a spoiler. There's a whole thing about the Flying Dutchman. The Dutchman always has to have a captain. You can't, because his job is to ferry the dead from one to the other, right? You like that has to be someone's job. And so when they killed Davy Jones, I'm like, you have to cut your heart out and you have to put it in the chest and you take over that job. So I'm like, I feel like that's a job. Like there has to be, or I mean, maybe the dude was like, hey, we could just let this go wild and see what the fuck happens. But I kind of feel like that might be the whole. Maybe somebody should at least be sitting in the chair. I don't know. Maybe somebody should get off the floor and at least sit in the chair. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something that's going to have to be answered in in the future. What do you think the future holds, Cora, for whoever's running time?
First of all, I don't think anybody's going to be running it anytime soon. I think it's going to be a clusterfuck because this guy didn't leave behind a manual exactly like how to harness the timeline, how to put everything back in balance. Here is the idiot's guide to being me. I mean, he didn't leave any of that shit. It's like he says, I want, before he got killed, he's like, I want you two to take over. But he didn't say, and I'll tell you how to do it. He just says, I just want you to do it. And I'm just like thinking, it's great. You know how to print out all these like reports of what's going to happen. And, you're living in this building with this shit swirling around and this this bad smoke dragon outside that you quote unquote, like got in control of. How the fuck are they supposed to know how to do any of this, even if they were gonna agree to do it? But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, if they're not killing him, he's not going anywhere, so he probably would have taught them all of this. So I don't know. Going into season 2, I think it's going to be really bad. I have no idea. I thought, but before they had Loki go back to TVA, that he would be able to go back, talk to Mobius, and they would somehow be able to like run the show and try to, do damage control. But the fact that he came back and everything's already altered and they don't recognize him tells me he's in for a fucking like real job of trying to even get through to Mobius to explain what happened, to let alone,
Also, we don't know where the TVA exactly sits in this existence, so to speak,
Is
right?
there only one TVA?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
When she threw him back, I'm like, how do we know he went back to the same one? I mean, could that be the whole? That's what's gonna blow your fucking mind. I'm like, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Like, it's that though. The one difference was that fucking dude's got his space on a statue in there now. Like,
and there's got to be something to that little clock lady saying, "Well,
oh, Miss Minutes, I love
here's
her.
the files that you didn't ask for, but I think that you actually need." And then she's purposely packing up a bag with those files. And then what did she say to Mobius when she left? I'm gonna go.
Oh no, you're talking about the judge. She's like, I'm gonna go look for free will. I'm like, what? Okay, bye.
And what does that mean? Is free will a person? Is it a place? Is it a time? Is it a nickname for some type of like branch, or is it the concept of free will?
I feel like she knows more than she's letting on.
Oh, I agree. She read the files. She was quick to get out of there before Mobius, could do something. But I don't know.
I thought you meant Miss Minutes. I'm like, I appreciate her being more involved in this show than I thought she would be. I love that.
I agree.
She's adorable.
She's the one who gave the files to the judge. So, and
True.
basically said, these are the files that you actually want and need, rather than, and to me, I think it might have been foreshadowing for the one, what are we calling him again? The guy.
He Who Remains.
Thank you. He probably knew he was going to get stabbed, and maybe the files that he sent to Miss Minutes to give to the judge have something to do with reaching out to his variant at a different time to warn him that the war is going to start over, or to give him the information so that he can actually end up doing what he already did in a different timeline. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just very strange. I think that's going to be pivotal in season 2. What's in those files? Where is she going, and what is she doing with it?
True. Yeah, I had, in that last little bit of the episode, I had totally forgotten about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the biggest question for me, and it makes a lot of sense to me that the He Who Remains may have intentionally sent her on a mission with those files.
Maybe she's the failsafe.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Maybe that, like what you're saying, maybe she's like the failsafe, because she's like, well, I'm going to look for free will. I'm like, yeah, but didn't they just do that by kind of stabbing dude?
Because she didn't seem to care about living her own life. She wanted to keep the TVA going. Now all of a sudden she's just abandoning it. She's abandoning it for a good reason.
I don't think she wants to just keep it going. I think she wants to keep it going, doing what it's always done. I think she actually probably honestly believes in what the TVA was doing as we are introduced to the TVA in the first couple episodes, and kind of wants to go back to that rather than to kind of re-examine exactly what their purpose is in light of this newer information about, the one who remains and stuff like that. That's what I think. Because she was obviously taken a bit off guard by the fact that the Timekeepers were a couple of, knockoff Disney robots from the fucking It's a Wonderful Life ride or whatever the hell they have at Disney. But, yeah, so I think she probably wants to go back to what she had always known because she believes in that, but not necessarily what else could be done with the TVA. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's the files that gave her a reason to leave. You think she's just trying to continue the mission in a different way?
Oh, we don't know yet. And that's something we're going to find out.
Because what I'm thinking is she walked out, right? And then we saw Loki come back. And again, just I hate that Frank has done this to me now, where I catch one little fucking like very small thing, and I'm like, wait, because when B-15 and Mobius were standing there in that little section of the library, and they're reading the thing, and B-15's like, there's already like 4 or 5 coming off this one straight in here, and she said, does he want to do something about that? And I'm like, who's he? I'm like, you talking about dude? Is there a variant of him now running the TVA in the judge's spot? Because this is now a different one.
Oh, you're right.
Because I'm like, who was he that she was talking about? Because it wasn't Mobius.
There's no way that Mobius would know, because last he left, Loki and Sylvie were going to go find out who was behind the curtain. So how would he have known yet?
Yeah, and then the last thing he saw the judge leave, and I'm like, well, was that the end of that? Mm-hmm. Damn it. You know what? It was Agatha all along. No, I figured it out.
Didn't he give a clue, though? Because he did say in his little explanation and spiel that he figured all this out and connected with his variants in the 33rd century. So I thought that was weird that he gave that detail. So maybe that's something. There's something.
That's what I'm saying. They all probably know to some capacity. That's what I'm assuming. Is this guy? Mm-hmm. It's not like they're all of his variants are left in the dark. Maybe there's some that do know. Yeah. I don't know.
You know, Backbencher in the chat says something interesting. He said when Sylvie sent Loki to TVA, the one who remains was alive. She killed him after he sent Loki back. So how did Loki go to a different timeline where they don't know who he is?
Unless she programmed the little Dooley dad to send him, who knows? But that's not her Dooley dad.
Yeah, but I'm like, how did? Yeah.
Wasn't that the judge?
Oh, that was his. No. Wasn't that the guy's?
No, it was the judge's. Because it was.
I thought like it turned around and she had the thing in her hand, and I'm like,
oh yeah, she had that weird little wristwatch thing that would look like lava or something like that. That's what she used to send him back.
Yeah. So his
mistake.
I was like, wait, no, didn't she turn around and it was lit up and she just swiped him over into that? Like,
yeah.
You gotta use the telepath thing.
No, she used his little weird little iPhone watch thing.
Also, in one of the little shots at the end, was there one of those little fucking rings that Doctor Strange has? I saw like a little round. You know what I mean? That's what I thought that was about. Like that thing on his wrist was kind of like the same thing that Doctor Strange uses to do his little orange wibbly woos. I don't know.
His little circly sparkly thing?
Yeah, his little pinwheels.
Marble circle thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know.
You gotta figure that thing probably does more than those TemPads.
First of all, how she learned how to use it in those microseconds is a great question.
She's in on it.
Yeah.
Mephisto. It was all Mephisto.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. I said it was Agatha, but I mean, I was gonna go with Mephisto. Fuck it.
I just wonder if somehow she sent him purposely later in time, after the timeline could have adapted. I don't know, or if it was. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But
we'll probably find a lot of this stuff out in season 2, whenever season 2 comes about. Hopefully it's not too long, because I'm already ready for the next season. Probably, yeah. I would imagine it's going to be at least a year before we see the second season of this too. It's going to take a while. For one, we have no idea what their filming schedule is. They might even have a filming schedule for this yet. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, this is also setting up a lot of stuff that's coming in the MCU. I mean, obviously we've got the Multiverse of Madness. That might be something that Doctor Strange deals with because of everything that has happened here in Loki, for all we know. I'm sure they'll make that clear in the movie when it comes up. Yeah, so, Jesus, I mean, there it is. I mean, is there anything in the last couple of episodes that we didn't get to? Because, like I said, we didn't get a chance to do this last week because of some stuff. I mean, is there anything in the last couple of weeks that you guys wanted to go into while we still have some time here?
The one thing I would say is, even the one who remains seemed, I don't know, baffled or surprised or just in awe of what happened when they had that moment and there was that weird, like, you know, on the timeline, stat, whatever, you know.
That was the bell.
It's almost like he didn't even understand that. So I would love to understand and get more clarity about what the hell that meant and how it all came about. because it seems like nobody understands what that was, you know, and how it translated into being so tangibly visible on a fucking TV screen.
Can we also just give dude a shout out for that fucking acting job? I don't know why I was sitting there and I'm like, I like the way this guy's just doing this character. Like, I just love the acting this guy's got into this character. He's just fucking doesn't really seem to give a shit. It's like, I mean, if you
Apple sitting there laughing,
he just got into it and had a good fucking time. Like, you can tell. And I'm like, I guess if you knew everything and you knew it was going to happen, you'd just sit there back and laugh too. Like, well. And I think the other thing was, okay, wait, there was one thing I noticed in the background, those windows that are behind him. Mm-hmm. Didn't those look like the same fucking windows in those little places Doctor Strange was at? Like the one in London, the one in New York, those same like big windowsills. So I'm like, well, if we're talking about time, I'm like, that might have something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe it was also subliminal Disney shit because there was like one big one and like two little ones above it. I'm like, fuck you. I see it.
The hidden Mickey.
It might have been a hidden Mickey. I don't know. Maybe. And my other thing, which maybe solidified that again, is I just think about dumb shit because of Frank. What was the first thing Doctor Strange did? He had the little apple and he kept turning it forward and turning it back in time. And I'm like, this motherfucker sitting in the eating an apple.
Where did he get the apple? Does he freeze or does he just manifest food out of magic? Because I was thinking about that.
I don't know.
When they were walking in, I'm like, okay, there's.
He just casually had an apple.
Where do you get food? You can't get fucking like DoorDash there. I mean, where the fuck is this guy get
There was a pizza truck there, or a pizza car that Mobius had.
All right.
An apple that green though, I don't know. That car looked pretty fucking beat up. I don't know. I half expect to see the Pizza Planet truck somewhere in the fucking mess too. I don't know.
That would have been kind of fun.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts about overall?
Just overall the series. I mean, just very well done for one. For two, they managed to push Loki through this progression, this growth over the course of 6 episodes that we have seen over the course of the last 8 or 9 years since he was introduced in Thor. Mm-hmm. They managed to do that without making it look like a mess. Okay. It's like I think it was an honest growth for him. It wasn't so much the way it was all written and the way that it was all presented was very smooth. I thought that was one of the nice things, because you very easily could have just screwed that whole thing up and made the series really, really uneven, at least for his character. But it didn't. I thought it worked really, really well. And that's one of the dangers that you run when you try to do something like they did with Loki. Because, again, we didn't get the version of Loki in the beginning of this that we had when we last saw him getting his neck snapped by Thanos. He had already gone through a lot of growth at that point. We got the guy who was still very, very raw, fresh off the events of the attack of New York in the Avengers. So, I mean, he's still pissed off. He still wants to control the world. He still wants all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But he has to go through this path in 6 episodes as opposed to however many movies and however many years. It's all going to happen in 6 episodes over the course of 6 weeks. They did a very good job.
And you say that, even at the end, he told Sylvie, I don't want a throne. I'm like, shit. Like, hearing him say, like, I don't want all this. I'm like, yikes. That's a big step back from, hey, I'm going to attack fucking New York to, I don't want this kind of shit.
Well, when you get kicked in the balls by Sif about 7,000,
okay,
it's going to put things in perspective.
Fair.
So, I mean, yeah, that will make even the hardest god of mischief learn a few lessons pretty quickly. Yeah. But I mean, also, I like Sylvie. I want to see more of Sylvie. I want to see her fleshed out more in the 2nd season. We don't really get to see. I mean, we don't get a lot of her depth over the course of this series, this one season. It's like we know what her intent is. She's pissed off because she got pulled out of Asgard when she was 11 or 12 years old. She's bitter. She's been on the run. She blames the TVA. She wants to tear the whole thing down. Great. The only real growth we got out of her is whatever weird relationship, comes up between her and Tom Hiddleston. And we don't even really get a chance to explore that. So we haven't really had a good look at who she is. There was some good dialogue in there. Like, what was it, episode 3 or 4 that a lot of people didn't like when they were stuck on that planet? I mean, that was a big opportunity to, really let us know who that character was. And I think they did an okay job. But after that, we never really got a chance to continue to get an idea as to who she is inside. Now, maybe season 2 is going to do that a lot better. Maybe it'll do it a lot more. I think it'll almost have to. But I would like to have known a little bit more about exactly what's going on with her. But
what part of What part of wait? Yeah, she was in Asgard, and she is a Loki. Is that a? How do these multiple universes work when they're lined up and everything is all run smooth? Is she from a different version of that, or is it? Because there was the 5 other damn Lokis that were in the end of time that they all just kind of plucked out. That didn't work. Like, I don't know. I'm like, if like I said, if she's supposed to technically be the Loki for that, is that a different? Does the TVA go to multiple realities? Is what I'm saying. I guess like.
That's a great question.
Was she the Loki for that type or that time, or was she in Asgard at a certain point and then that's I don't know. It's like in a progression, or is this she's in this Asgard, here's Tom Hiddleston in this one, here's the alligator for some fucking reason in Asgard. You know what I mean? How does that work?
I don't know. Maybe that'll get explained a little more in season 2. Another question that I had that was never really answered at all is why was she a variant in the first place?
Yeah, what did she do?
Because because we see her get taken. She's 11 or 12 years old. She's sitting there playing with some toys. It's not like she killed somebody that she wasn't supposed to kill. It's not like she did something significant. She was a kid that was just sitting there on the steps of the castle in Asgard playing around. And that's when
they know something.
Yeah, that's going to have to come out at some point too. Exactly, because I thought it was interesting.
And how they recruit people? You mean like their policies?
Maybe it's possible. I'm glad you say that because it's possible that's what it was. Is they were trying to turn her into an agent, and she wasn't going for it.
Yeah, maybe they thought, hey, here's a god of mischief. Let's try that.
But why doesn't she say that at some point in this season, though?
Well, she did escape. She was the only one who did get away. Maybe that was the... maybe she will be she who remains.
Well, I thought it was funny that at one point a couple episodes ago, Sylvie asked the judge, Ravonna, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
She asked the judge, why did you come get me anyway? And she says, I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
I think that was a blatant lie. I think there is something significant about why they went there to get her in the first place. Because why would you go after an 11 or 12-year-old kid who's just sitting there playing?
Be so mad about it and hunting her for all these years.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be pretty pissed off too if they just yanked me.
but if you listen to the one who remains, I think he purposely handpicked her because he knew she and our Loki were the answer to his retirement, and he wanted them in the TVA.
Because he did.
Bring them in at the right time.
He did seem surprised. He's like, the two of you here at the same time? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty wild. Right. I was kind of like, that is wild. He is right. He's out of line, but he's right. I don't know. Yeah, somebody knows something and they're not fucking saying it. That's what's getting me. Because again, I want to know what did the judge do? That's what I'm saying. You just kind of said like, hey, there she is. Hey, now we're not going to explain that. Like, and somebody jacked the pen at some point.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think should have been explained at some point, and they just never were. So, and that's stuff that'll probably, like I said, most of it's probably going to come in season 2. Again, some of the bigger questions for me is why did they get Sylvie in the first place? I mean, because one of the things that I noticed is that as soon as a variant does something that is slightly off that causes the TVA to roll in anyway, that the TVA tends to show up right then.
Yeah, as soon as it spikes.
There's very little time between what they do and when the TVA shows up. So what did Sylvie do sitting there playing with her toys on the steps in Asgard that caused the TVA to get there within just a couple of minutes?
Maybe that's that butterfly you might be talking about.
Might be.
That's the I don't know. Like I said, someone knows something, and they're not saying what it is. That might have been the start. Because I mean, they're like, oh, they pulled Kid Loki because he fucking killed Thor. I'm like, well, that's fair. You just straight up killed the God of Thunder. I don't know.
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, for that matter, what did the judge do?
That's what I keep saying.
Whatever her variant was to get the attention of the TVA. Did she do something? They brought her in and then decided, oh, we're going to make you one of our time cops and erase all your memories?
And they wouldn't have just made her that top position for no reason either. Like, that had to be for something. You know?
It's true. But I think that's a good place as any to start to wrap this up. Jeremy, any final thoughts on the last couple episodes of Loki? We'll probably do kind of a series breakdown next week. But I mean, just some random thoughts in the last couple of weeks that we haven't really had a chance to talk about yet, Jeremy.
I want to see more of the alligator and more of Miss Minutes because I feel like she has something to do with this. She seems to be the little Siri of the whole between the TVA.
True.
She could be like the little Siri TVA. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of want to know, like I said, all the things that mentioned. What did the judge do? What did Sylvie do? I'm sure we might get that more fleshed out and see what's going to happen, what had happened to them, or what was going to happen, I guess. Because, like I said, if you knew, hey, you're going to find one of the capital murder variants, as opposed to, like I said, a misdemeanor variant like Mobius, which I'm just going to keep calling him that. Misdemeanor Mobius is what I'm going to call him now. Hashtag that. I don't care. Make it trend. Free Mobius and get him his jet ski, damn it. Maybe that was his thing. He was having too much fun. He was actually on his jet ski, and goddamn it, you took that from him. I don't know.
I always thought the jet ski was significant, but they never did it. They never let him ride one in this first season.
There's a season 2.
Opportunity missed. Marvel opportunity missed. Cora, what are some of your final thoughts on this as we start to wrap this particular show up?
I agree with everything you guys are saying, and I'm looking forward to season 2, but I'm going to try to take my mind off it and just focus on new content that they're letting us get before then, because otherwise I'll get really frustrated trying to figure out what the fuck happened.
You know what the side of the jet ski should say? It should just say ka-chow.
For all time, always.
Just make that the decal on it. I don't care. Just make it in some cool like 90s lightning like ka-chow.
Or just make it red with like the yellow racing stripes and little lightning bolts in the front. That would be just fine by me.
Put the what was his number? 95. Put 95 right in the front. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, here's one of the things that I really, really like. As I've got all 6 episodes behind me now, one of the things I really like is that Disney has come right out and said, we're committed to season 2 of this thing. I really, really like that. Yeah, that gives me a great deal of excitement. It's really, even though I feel like there's going to be second seasons of all the stuff that we've gotten so far, especially WandaVision, because that thing was so huge, I find myself wildly disappointed in the fact that I don't know when, even if that stuff is coming. I like the fact that Disney has come right out and said, Loki will return in season 2. That gives me a lot of excitement for what's coming in the next year. It's going to keep me looking as to what kind of stuff Tom Hiddleston talks about, the director of the series talks about, some of their actors are talking about. I actually really liked the casting. It was great to see Owen Wilson back in there. I think this was a great role for him. It was fun.
Yes.
I really liked, none of the people in here really made the show drag. Every now and again, you can get that one character or actor that makes the show drag a bit. I actually really, really like everybody in the show. Even the ancillary characters like the weird guy who was the office worker for the first couple episodes. I mean, even he doesn't get in the way of the story. Even if it is just a couple of scenes, he plays really good parts in the scenes. So I really like how everything worked out great for the series. Very, very happy that they're going to have that they are absolutely committed to season 2. I love it. I am absolutely committed to watching season 2. I am really, really excited. But I'm totally fine with what Disney's done with this. What they're doing with all their TVs, with all the Disney Plus stuff, rather, not TV. I am excited. We finally got Black Widow. We'll be talking about that later tonight. I am excited that we're back into the movies. That was one of the most exciting parts about going to see Black Widow to me, was that the MCU is back. Not just Marvel through Disney Plus and some of those series, which have been fantastic, but the MCU is back, and I think it's fantastic. But I'm really eager to see what season 2 brings. There's going to be some really, really cool growth for this character moving forward, which is interesting, because I think now he's at the place where he was when we last see him in the beginning of Avengers Infinity War. So now we're going to be able to see Loki continue to progress, maybe not into the all-out good guy, but into a really intriguing character who we just want to see more of. His adventures going forward are going to be really, really fun. And again, great characters, special effects are cool. It was a very different world of TVA, and Marvel's really great at world building. So I really appreciated what they gave us in the TVA. I was really happy with the whole damn thing. And again, I don't understand why people were mad about that middle episode. Every one of these Disney Plus shows have had that one episode where they're kind of letting us take a breath as far as the story and the action and everything is concerned. They give us a couple of decent sized reveals that put the pieces in place for the last 2 or 3 episodes to just go balls out to the finish line. I actually thought that episode was really, really well done. I mean, not the most exciting, probably not. I mean, if I had to rank all the episodes, it might be 5th or 6th, but it was still a very good, very, very needed episode that got things set up. Awandi said he wants to see Thor's reaction to Loki being alive. We may not get that. I mean, because I honestly, for several years, I thought that Coulson at some point was going to come back to the MCU. That he was going to come back to the movies. And Kevin Feige has flat out said, Coulson is dead. No more Coulson. Clark Gregg has come out and said, I am not playing Coulson anymore in the MCU. That part is behind me. Kind of a bummer, but I really don't know if Loki's going to be back in the MCU at some point. Because if you think about it, if he is, it's going to make him a variant again. He's going to be out of time. So,
true.
Wouldn't that cause a whole other thing, a whole other branch that needs to be pruned? I don't know. Maybe, I'm sure Kevin Feige and the writers will find some way to fit it in if they want.
There's a lot of branches on this goddamn tree right now. That's what we need a big goddamn pruner. We're going to do this.
Yeah, they need some serious hedge trimmers if they want to start trimming this timeline now. But yeah, Jeremy, you're going to be back with me later on today. But I mean, what do you got going on right now on the YouTubes?
I'm glad you fucking asked because I've been sitting here because last week we were going to say something. This is a total surprise to me. So I'm glad you asked. If anyone noticed any change in the quality, not me personally, but the audio and video and shit, I'm always the same. I do have a new laptop now, computer, which is much better than the one I had. So I did try. I mean, I think it was like a week or two ago. I tried a little quick test stream, and it actually worked, that's the amazing part. So. That is now finally going to start happening. I found a game way back from my fucking childhood from 1997, remastered on the PS4. Why? I don't know and I don't care. And I'm going to start playing it because it's called Turok, the Dinosaur Hunter.
I've heard people talk about that, actually.
That shit?
About it.
Oh my God. I don't even know how to explain it. If I just tell you it came out in 1997, I should probably tell you. If I just told you, yeah, you're a Native American with guns and you're shooting these random dudes and dinosaurs and like mech dinosaurs with fucking guns.
High school. That was a good year.
Yeah, I was about to start school. We won't talk about that. Yeah, no, it's a wild fucking game, dude. I remember playing it. Yeah, I'm just like looking through shit and I shouldn't have, and I'm like, oh my God, it's on sale for $10, and I'm like, specifically because it's that nostalgic to me that I played the absolute fuck out of it.
Things in boxes that you
need. This is what fills the background, okay? That's what makes, because hey, when we come back for season 2, you're gonna see
people listening and watching. So in our DMs that we talk behind the scenes, he shared a screenshot of an order of what are they called? These dolls?
Yes, the pop figures. Frank's got some back here too, right over his head.
Of some he has on order.
And
he shared he had 4 more ordered somewhere else, and he goes, "I have a problem." And I go, "That's okay."
This is my
for me.
This is my problem. No, because when we come back for season 2, I've got Mobius and I've got a President Loki coming. And then because it was in there, this is where it started as I saw John Nada from They Live with the sunglasses and the fucking shotgun. I'm like, I have to. I'm sorry. And 2 of them the other 2 are for my mom, and then I have I almost said Scarface. Leatherface coming, and then a really cool Batman one coming. Those are for me.
So yeah, there's his Twitter all over the bottom of the screen. Go check him out. And Lady Cora, what do you have going on?
Real quick, Awandi, is that better? He just told me to chat. My mic's really low. I've been changing my settings around.
You were a little bit low.
Perfect my sound. I just doubled it on the computer settings, so hopefully that might be better.
You're better now. Yeah.
That's good now. Yes.
I don't really have much going on except for maybe a new project that I kind of talked about on Drew's show, where I'm going to do a standalone, like, recorded podcast about facts, not opinion, about what's going on in Washington, D.C. with Congress and the Supreme Court and blah, 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 for people to listen, to just get informed and then use that to make their own opinions. So that's something I'm doing. I'm going to use this stuff I normally do anyways, where I research and learn things myself. But to do this, I want to make sure I properly track sources. So if people have questions about where I got the information. So I've been, starting to do the back side of that. So that's been kind of a project. So, yeah.
You can follow her on her Twitter handle right there on the screen. Go check her out. As far as me, you guys know what I'm doing. You guys are here watching right now. We are going to be back here at about, I'd say about an hour and a half, we're going to be doing a spoiler discussion for Black Widow. Just to remind you guys, we do not shy away from spoilers on this channel at all. With the exception of the short videos I do, usually the reactions right at the theater, I try not to let too much spoiler shit out. But this will be a big-time spoiler discussion. Everything that happens in Black Widow, from the opening credits to the post-credit scene, which in and of itself is spurring a lot of discussion. Yes, me and Jeremy are going to have a lot of fun with that one. But,
oh boy!
Yeah. Also, don't forget, here with us to talk about Black Widow later on tonight will be our good friend Night Watch from the Night Watch Zone. Go check out his channel. The link to his channel is in the description below. I believe I've updated it for his new channel. He ran into some problems with YouTube, had to restart his channel. He's trying to get his subscriber base back up. So if you were following him before and you've seen him on here, he's been on here a couple times to talk about WandaVision and some other stuff. Go back and resubscribe to his channel. He does a lot about horror movies and things like that. He's got a really great crew over there. So go check him out as well. He'll be on here with us tonight to talk about Black Widow. So we're going to have a great discussion between the four of us. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
You know what happened? The fucking the TVA came in. YouTube's the TVA. They found out he was a variant. They pruned his shit, and he started over. That's
they probably did.
I'm watching you.
They de-resed him and sent him to fucking hell planet to get eaten by the big cloud dog.
No, actually, in our universe, YouTube is the void. We're in
right.
the void now.
Pretty much.
I'm watching YouTube. Damn it.
But thank you to everybody in the chat that was here. I know my girlfriend, who was currently on vacation, Jennifer, was in here. She's in here right now, I think. Chris Skywalker's in here. Penny the Pooh was in here. TSS. Rachel, obviously. Awandi was really involved with what's going on. Awandi. And some other. Chris Skywalker. Garguts was in here. Go check out his channel as well. A whole lot of people. Thank you guys for coming in. And we'll see you guys here in about an hour and a half as we go over Black Widow. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.